Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Morning, Greg.
Morning. Hey, I'm just curious what you saw from the guys during winter workouts, sort of who stepped up into that leadership role during the time that you guys were all on campus, and what development you maybe saw from some of the guys like Noah Kane and Devon Ford, who saw time last year, but maybe not as much as the guy like Journey Brown.
Well, I think they all got the mentality that, we got to do better than what we did last year. So how do we get better? Because what I did last year don't matter this year. So, we talked about pushing each other physically, mentally, learn how to prepare different, to have a target on your back. Because last year you've supposed to been the weak link. Now everybody going to look at you as one of the better groups in the country. So what are you going to do to get better? And, we did a great job in winning condition, pairing them up differently every day. Hey, this skill set may be better for this player, but learn how to push yourself. I thought was cool was, all them guys pushing themselves to run with Journey, maybe to try to compete and beat him in some of the sprint drills, just different things to compete to get that competitive nature going.
Rich Garcella, Reading Eagle.
Hey, J1, thanks for your time today. I hope you're well.
You too, Rich.
Can you tell me what you think Journey's performance in the Cotton Bowl can do for him going forward? And also, as a follow-up, what can Noah Kane's performance in the bowl game do for him?
I think confidence, that you feel like you can do against anybody. I'll go back from Journey, Minnesota game. Played his tail off. And then what he did to Ohio State in the second half was probably as impressive as anybody in the country. I would say this, the last 4 or 5 games, and I know I'm biased, but I thought Journey Brown was playing as good as any running back in the country. He got freakish athletic ability and strength that, he's finally starting to tap into it. I think the thing that I was so impressed in the bowl game is trying to finally get him to play as fast as he is. I thought he's finally starting to trust his track speed to football now. The way he separated on that one run, 50, 60-yard run, that's what I've been trying to bring out of him the last couple of years. And I think now he sees it. I think he carried that over into winning condition. As far as Noah, he never lacks confidence. It was him just getting healthy, being back the guy that we saw early in the year. You get those nicks, and muscles, sometimes they take a long time to heal. It just took a process, especially a kid who's powerful he is and run the way he does. And, it just took a time to get healed. And I think getting him back in the bowl game, got his confidence back. I think those two guys are going to do a great job going forward, but also be cautious. Don't count out Devon Ford. He's a kid that he is one of those physically gifted kids. I think he's a kid that, you're going to see a whole nother level of Devon going forward. I think he's a kid who, for the first time, probably was, like all freshmen, enjoying college a little bit too much. Not saying he was partying, but just, that much freedom. I think it happened easy to him early, and he forgot that you got to do it every week. Where those kids just kept escalating, getting better throughout the process. So I think he had a great winning condition. I'm really excited about him. I view all three of those guys in my mind as starters right now.
Next up let's do Bob Flounders, Harrisburg. Hold on, Bob. Having a slight technical difficulty here. All right, go ahead.
Hey, Juwan, thanks for your time.
You too, Bob.
Just to follow up on Devon, I think he kind of gets overlooked because I know you get asked a lot about Journey and Noah. It sounds like you think a lot of him. What would you say his ceiling is, and what do you expect from him maybe in year 2? What does he kind of bring to the room? Is he different than those guys, and how big of a gap maybe is there between Devon and the rest, or is there a gap at all?
I don't think the gap's far. I think this kid is so physically gifted, man. He got the best hips I ever seen out of a player. He can sink his hips and explode through the smallest crease. To him, was getting bigger. This winning condition was huge. This is the first time he had one. Where a guy like Noah came in and had a winning condition. Journey had multiple. I think him getting stronger to be able to take on blitz. I think, just all those stuff that you like to see out of a young player go through. he finally got that to this winter condition. Suck it kind of taken away from him, but we understand that situation. But I'm excited. I think he's going to get faster. I think, he can be a problem matching up, with linebackers and coverage. I think he's going to play football for a long time, in my opinion.
Mark Brennan, Lions 247.
What can you tell us about Keziah? I know you didn't have an awful lot of chance to work with him, but you had some. And then how difficult do you think this is for him not having the opportunity to play in spring ball when, he kind of came out of high school early? I think that was one of his sole purposes, or one of his primary purposes for doing it.
Well, I think the best thing I can explain is he got over the homesickness, because a lot of times we take for granted when you bring these mid-year kids in, that is easy. That's the hardest part because they come in January and most of the coaches on the road recruiting, so he didn't get to see the same faces that are recruiting. And I think him battling through January to get to February, which is the hardest time when a condition breaker go through early struggles, it built character for the kid. And I think we did enough that he got pieces of it, with our meetings and our walkthrough, so he can kind of feel like, what, I belong here. I use him as an example. Like the last part of winning condition, I saw a kid who was shy, sitting back, and then I paired him up with Journey because he got that type of speed, and it was impressive watching them two doing shuttle run versus each other and sprint versus each other, where Journey had to look over one time and said, man, this kid can run. He pushed him. So, now he understands, what, I can play on this level. So I'm excited to watch him go forward. He does a great job in our Zoom meetings that we have throughout the week of retaining stuff that we put in early. So, he's another kid who's going to be, I think, going to be extremely talented with a talented room. And I think he'll get better because the guys in the room.
Next up is Mike Gross, Lancaster.
Hi, Coach. Thanks for today. What have you learned about your guys, and what have you learned about maybe your own ability to coach and teach from this remote learning stuff that you've had to do?
I learned this, that we all can evolve. There's some things out there in life that's bigger than football, and we're all going through it. And this shall pass. But it shouldn't slow us down. It shouldn't slow us down being a human, to having still interaction where it's about football, about life. We always preach family, and I think it's more prevalent now than ever to be able to get on FaceTime with our guys, get on Zoom with our guys. And I'm a little different. I'm not just going to talk ball. I want to make sure they're in a good place because this whole corona is affecting all of us in different, aspects of our life, And for a lot of times, we're not in control of those kids home. They got stuff they have to do with their parents. So just trying to keep them engaged and try to take their mind off different things because, like I said, we're all affected by this in different ways. So it's been great. I mean, our guys was already using Zoom from school. So, hell, they taught me how to use some stuff. So it's been great, and also let you know you can work from home. You don't have to sit in the office all day and still be able to be functioning. With installing and learning and getting better.
John Patishnock, happyvalley.com.
Hey, good morning, J1. Appreciate the time and hope you're doing well.
You too, brother.
Hey, how would you describe James's leadership and how has he kept the program moving forward during this time when everyone is staying at home and is coaching and is learning remotely?
I mean, I always think, Coach always been a guy who could, to push the envelope to get better. If you stay in status quo, you're not getting better. So, we all learn together how we can work remotely. We still have our staff meetings in the morning. Anything that need to be talked about, we all talked about. And the thing I love about Coach is everybody have a voice. Everybody have a slot where you can say what you need to say, whether we all agree with it or not agree with it. But any day when we leave that meeting, we all agree with it. So I respect the hell out of Coach for that because you've been some places it's a dictatorship. It's one way being done. I got a number of respect for Coach. I mean, the way he developed leadership throughout the program, not only just from the players, but his coaches. When he said he wants what's best for the staff, he really means that. And I think he's an unbelievable person to be up under to learn, if you ever want to be a head coach and how to lead a program. I mean, it's not by chance where we at. And I think a lot of that is credit to Coach Frank.
Next up, Audrey Seider, The Athletic.
Hey, J1, thanks for your time this morning.
Do I?
A little bit different note here, but I'm just kind of wondering, if you look at the way that recruiting's changed over time, obviously you guys aren't able to get out on the road right now, missing that spring evaluation period. We'll see what happens with camps, but is this a time where you guys maybe can buy into huddle highlights a little bit more than usual, or do you have to kind of be cautious with some of that? Because I know James has said before, anybody can look pretty good on a short amount of highlights.
I'll say this. I think what helped, like one thing that helped us is we signed our whole class in December. So a lot of us were able to get on the road in January and basically do area and position recruit. At least I did. So I got a chance to see a lot of these kids up close, to match their film. I think the biggest thing for me, I'm a big guy. I don't like to sign off on a kid unless I see him live, practice or game, because I want to see how he compete when it's tough. So it hurts you a little bit on that aspect, but you know what? I do think you have to value things. That the honest guy don't lie, and then you find out what type of competition the kid playing, because I think now you can match both of them together. But I like some people, I don't know how you do not value game film. Like that matters. That you can see so much in the film on why you should recruit a kid and why you should not recruit a kid, in my opinion.
Next up is Donnie Collins, Times Tribune.
Hey, J1, thanks for doing this today.
No problem.
What's it been like getting to know Kirk the last couple of months? What is his experience, with kind of coaching every position on the offense? How's that kind of helped toward, getting you guys to the next level?
I mean, with Kirk, he's just an old ball coach. I mean, all he want to do is coach ball. He's a guy full of a lot of knowledge. I'm sure, he came in the same way, open-minded. He came in, and this is not just going to be what we did at Minnesota, what you guys did at Penn State. I mean, he was willing to put a playbook together that made sense for all of us. We all had an opinion. We all had pieces in it, and that's a lot of credit to Kirk and not being an ego guy. I mean, he's an unbelievable man. I think his structure, how he's going to go about details and being precise on everything is going to be really, really impressive going forward for us and getting these kids to play at a high speed. I feel like, what we installed early in the carryover, we could have went out there and practiced right now with our kids being off campus, because how detailed we left coming out of those meetings, and having Kurt around in January, in December in the bowl game was huge. He got a chance to evaluate the roster to see the strength and weakness and what we can get better at. So, I mean, he's a great guy to work for. Like I said, a humble dude, not one of the ego guys, mad scientist. If he is, he's hiding it. But he's great to work for. He, like you said, he coached every position, so he can see it. Whether from up front blocking, which is always key to routes, being on time, and quarterback being precision with their drops and getting rid of the ball on time. So I think it's going to be great for us going forward.
Next up is Tyler Donahue, Lions 247.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for the time.
Anytime, Tom.
You just signed back-to-back years, a couple four-star running back recruits. Obviously, the crowded room has been talked about quite a bit. How do you go about recruiting guys to follow up those couple classes right now? And also, it's just kind of playing off that last class, Kevon Lee. You haven't had a chance to really talk to us about him to this point. What kind of dynamics does he bring in to that room for you guys in 2020?
Well, I don't really like to talk about the kids till they get here. I think he'll be a kid that fit our room. I mean, he's built the right way. I mean, he's going to be an unbelievable big kid with, great football movements. So, until we get him here, I like to withhold a little bit on him. I think, filling our room, we have a great culture here at the running back position. If you're a running back, why wouldn't you want to come to Penn State? Everybody say, well, you signed 2 this year, you signed 2 last year. You know what? The teams that win it every year, they're doing the same thing. And anywhere you go, you're going to have to compete. And I think we'll look different here, and I think some other programs will look different where you sign these kids, in pairs on the last couple of years, but you also, these kids leaving school early, and the guys we recruit are going to be high-level guys. You're going to be making decisions with kids leaving after their junior year. You hope to get them to their senior year, but you have to have depth. When I came in here, we was riddled with the depth problem. We had Mark Allen who was leaving, JT was leaving, Miles left early, and we into a position where we lost 3 guys in 1 year. If we didn't sign Noah and Devon, we'd have been in trouble going forward because nobody, I didn't see, I knew Journey had potential, but I didn't see him develop in the way he has until, we actually got on the field. So I just think you have to protect yourself a little bit, especially in the climate where it's easy for kids to quit and transfer now instead of fight sometimes. So you got to protect yourself a little bit in that way too.
Next up, Tobias Wilborn, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Hey, Coach, good to meet you.
You too.
Question for you. You mentioned earlier about how working from home, you can do it. Is that something you would want to see maybe stay even after the world, quote unquote, goes back to normal?
No. I like to be in the presence. I like the kids around me. I like to be able to physically see them and sit in that room. So if they ask questions, I can get them to draw them on the board. I just think there's a human element, interaction with the people you coaching that means more than sitting behind a computer screen. My eyes hurt. I'm wearing glasses now because I've been sitting behind the computer so long. But it also shows you that even when you're on vacation and you're away from each other, you can still get on the screen and everybody can function and still be able to be day-to-day with kids, whether us on vacation, they're on vacation, they want to talk about something. So you see football a little different than what you have in the past, and it's who knows where it's going to go next. But, at least we prepare for it now, and not let this be excuse of why we're behind when this pandemic ever ends.
Next up is Frank Bodani, York Daily Record.
Hey, good to talk to you, Coach. Thank you.
You too, Frank.
Go back to Journey Brown. You mentioned at the beginning a little bit about how he seems maybe he's just being able to find that track speed on the football field. He may be the fastest sprinter Penn State's ever gotten. Can you talk a little bit more about that? So you almost make it seem like maybe we're going to see a different Journey Brown in a sense.
Well, I almost compare him, if you really, to me, this is how I compare him. Basically, it's all those 3 guys we talked about earlier, him, Devon, and Noah, are basically like sophomores to me now. Is what you want to see. This basically their freshman year. And you take and you say, why you say that, Coach? Well, Journey hadn't played in 2 years, really. And now we're starting to see what certain kids, redshirt and development over time can do for kids. When you got the intangibles, you willing to work and be patient. He's a prime example of that. Now he's playing as a football player. When I first got here, I said he was a track kid playing football, and I meant that. But that was not being negative. He was a fast kid. He had measurables. He had talent. He just didn't know how to tap into it. And over time, he bought into it. It's amazing. You go back to Illinois, he got that first touchdown on the sweep. His whole demeanor and confidence started changing on that one play. And we gradually bring him along throughout the season. And then I thought in spring, he had a great spring. It was not surprising that he was a starter for us down the road because I thought he could win the job. And at camp, he went neck and neck with Ricky. It was one day that made a difference between me picking him to start and not to starter. But the kid kept working, and he kept trying to figure it out. And then it all just, that light bulb went off. And then now, he's playing. He's doing stuff that it's amazing to see. I thought the last 5 games, I would have said he was playing as good as Miles played the year before. It's not knock on Miles, but the way he was making safeties miss and erasing the defense, that's impressive. You don't wake up with that gift every day. And I think he's tapping into it. I don't think he's satisfied. I think he's hungry because now he got a taste of it and he realized how good he can be going forward.
Time for a couple more. Next up is John Sauber with the Center Daily Times.
Hey, J1, hope you're doing well. With with the blue-white game being, originally scheduled for this coming weekend, does it start to set in more that things are, of course, not where they're supposed to be at right now?
I think it's hard for me to speak for everybody, but it's set into me a long time ago. When this thing is real. I mean, you got people dying. It's unexplainable. My heart goes out to the first responders and the volunteers that's, trying to keep this country safe. So to me, it's real. I mean, and I hope it's real for everybody else that, you don't want to wait to that moment to affect somebody next to you and you realize, I should take this thing serious. So, we still preparing, no different whether we was playing today or tomorrow. So our approach hasn't changed to going forward. So, if we miss one practice in spring, I look at it this way. We kept our kids healthy going into the fall. You gotta channel that your thought process a little bit different, and we all do. You're on mute, Greg.
Thank you. Last question is Jerry DePaula, Pittsburgh Tribune Review.
Thanks for your time today, Coach. My question to you is, from a physicality standpoint, how much time will your guys need to be ready for the first day of training camp, whenever that is? And how much time are they going to need after that for the first game of the season, whenever that is?
Man, Jay, that's a tough question, Jerry. It really is. I don't know that answer. I would think this, you go back to being a high school coach. These kids are naturally different now. They've been training their whole life. Most of these kids are still able to work out, on their own at home. Some places still got gym. I would think, a month or 2 months, we can get these kids up to speed. You just gotta have a balance between football and training to make sure they're in shape. Because what you don't want to do is rush these kids and they pull muscles, and then you got longevity injuries that's going to flare up throughout the season. So, I think we all got to be on the same page. From weight training to the medical staff to nutrition. I mean, it's going to be a process that we all have to dig in and find out what's right. It's going to be beyond my opinion on what that takes. It's going to take all of us.